أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I'm starting this video while the adhan for Zuhr on the last day of Sha'aban is in the background. I don't know if you can hear it from the different mosques in my neighborhood. This is a video where you will hear me but you won't see me, but the images are going to be quite interesting. I'm going to share the individual items on my altar, talk a little bit about each, and then I'm going to just make some general comments about keeping an altar. Well, I'll make comments as I go along. This is a ceramic tile, which actually has the first part of the Kalima Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, in it, and also it spells out Allah. It was a gift from one of my closest friends in the UK, and she has such wonderful insights. It's not uncommon that she has given me things that end up on my altar, and you will see that I have others to share. This is a picture of my 5 children and their children, one each at the time, although one was in the belly, and since then there have been a couple more that have been added to the bunch because I now live on the other side of the planet from them, and things have severely changed in the way I conceive of myself as a mother. So I want them on the altar by way of both memory, affirmation, and blessing, so they become a part of my daily remembrance in sort of specific ways. This is a Celtic cross. I picked it up in Ireland a few years back. I did my DNA and I learned that I am a composite of 5 or 6 different countries, now they're countries or ethnicities, and that the greatest composite in my identity was for Ireland, which was really interesting. I mean, I'm 66% African and only 35% European. It just so happens that the distribution of countries across Western Africa and the distribution of countries across Europe ended up with more of a composite in Ireland. And I made a joke because I love Celtic music, and because I am into sacred symbols. When I flew through Ireland a couple times about 3 years back, I thought I need something really symbolically to help reflect that part of my ancestry. I'm also sure that there is more European blood coming through my father's side of the family because of the coloration of my aunts and uncles on that side. I don't know the specific lineage. So the fact that my father was a Methodist minister means that I'm comfortable with an affirmation of my Christian heritage. What's interesting is that the Celtic cross is not a simple 2-directional cross that then hits all 4 directions. It hits all 4 directions, but it does so with a slight variant, and I really like that about this symbol. I have lots of crystals, but I'm not an expert. It's just that on my altar, I balance things from the feminine and from the masculine. And this rather phallic-looking symbol or 2 I consider amongst the items that are masculine, but also the stone itself. This is Eye of Tiger and has certain properties, and this is a crystal, and I know that there's certain properties with them, but again, I'm not an expert on the crystals or the stones. There'll be some other stones you will see. I change my altar usually every full moon, every new moon, and sometimes when other occasions hit me that seems like now's the time to do it. And one of the things that I like to do is I take everything off and I change the cloth underneath, and then I replace them. And I'm really curious about how the masculine and feminine will be balanced in between the whole of the altar and also in between its parts. I consider it to be in three different parts. So at the moment, this, which I got in Jordan, is one of the feminine items, and it's right next to these masculine items. So I love everything with the circles. You will see that there are other circles, like this is behind my altar, also a gift from my friend, and this is above my altar, looking very much like the womb. So I like that balance. It's said in the feng shui of things that when you do two things in pairs, it is a blessing or a benefit for personal relations. So I have these two lovely stones that are heart-shaped, and I also have two peacock feathers. So let me say something about elements. I try to have things that come from the four elements: earth, water, fire, and air. And to reflect the air, I generally do feathers. I love to collect bird feathers, sometimes randomly in different countries. I just collect them and I bring them home and I put them on the altar for a little while or a long while, depending on how I feel moved. And things that come from the earth are pretty resplendent, so that's not too hard to see how they are reflected. In the Chinese New Year, I was born in the year of the water dragon. So there's a lovely feng shui store in Kuala Lumpur, my favorite mall where I go for my dentist. And I found this this gold dragon on sale. And yes, the dragon is also masculine. And I keep the dragon here on the altar as well. Again, a sphere, which is made of a lighter version of the lavender stone, is also another feminine symbol. Then they say in the feng shui that things with three help to motivate prosperity. And the beginning of this Chinese year of the rat, I went to an Chinese New Year celebration with the president, actually, of Indonesia and my friends. And they gave everybody a little envelope with 50,000 rupiah in it. And that's about $3 US, if I'm not mistaken. The idea of prosperity then is focused at this part of the altar for this particular time. Elephants are my spirit animal. They, I guess on another occasion I'll talk a little bit more about how they became my spirit animal and where that is now. But I do like to collect ones that are a little bit unusual. This one's unusual because it rests only on this very small thing here. So that means it has to be perfectly balanced because, of course, the front is a bit top heavy. I found it quite interesting, but I quite love it. So there it is, trying to stand up and not being very successful. This is my sheikh. I'm not going to show him for long because I think out of respect for that relationship. We've been teacher and student for about 20 years. I will talk about my tariqa during the month for sure. Every day I walk in my neighborhood and collect these blossoms. So this is one of the features that makes the altar a living altar because it is replenished by blossoms every day. These are aromatic. They have a lovely smell to them, and I also put water in them. So there's a small contribution to the element of water that goes along with having the daily blossoms on the altar. Um, 3 years ago, I was in Malaysia for Ramadan, and my daughter joined me for the month. And we revisited the Batu Caves, which is a Hindu temple built in a cave that's, a whole bunch of steps up. She encouraged me to make those steps all on my own. And I encouraged her to go there because when we lived in Malaysia, which was her last time there before this visit in her 30s, she had visited the Batu Caves, and a monkey stole a bag of goodies from her and bit her hand. So I didn't want her to be traumatized, and I wanted to see how she would respond, and she was right on top of it. I have lovely pictures of her with the monkeys from the cave. And on our way down, I was feeling quite full of myself because I had successfully made the visit, and also because I went all the way up there and came all the way back down, and I was still Muslim, which is what some people think is the problem. You go into these things and all of a sudden you become something else. Nevertheless, this beautiful little statue just would not let me leave her, and I was totally unsuccessful to talk the shopkeeper into lowering the price. But I didn't know who she was, so I brought her home, and I actually put a picture of her on Instagram, and I asked people, and on Facebook, and I asked people in my neighborhood if they knew who she was. Come to find out, she's Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin is a Chinese and Indian in origin, one of the manifestations of the mother goddess. And she, this particular one, she has 6 hands, and each hand is situated in a different way. Of course, you know, the one going down to the earth and open, and the one going up to the sky, like the Sufis. And I haven't traced the symbolism of all of the effects because I just haven't done it. But I just thought this one was particularly lovely, and the details were quite elaborate for such a small size. And that very same year, I looked at a house with another daughter of mine, and in the garden in front of the house, they had a 1 meter high, like 2.5, 3 feet high Kuan Yin of the Chinese type in the yard. So at first I don't know who she is at all, and the next thing you know, I'm surrounded by her. So I love the feminine energy, and so she's always on the altar. Right next to her is another gift from my friend. It's a baobab tree. I don't know if you know about the baobab trees, but I think they say they have lived to be the longest of the living trees. And I love the redwood, but apparently the baobab has an even longer history. And she is, as this one here also depicts, she's also way more feminine feeling for me than the redwoods. So I think I gravitate towards her for that reason. Some people know that I have grandchildren who are just gorgeous and wonderful, fun and funny human beings. And one of my grandchildren descends from Polish Jewish parents and from African American Muslim, Polish Jewish grandparents and African American Muslim grandparents. So they have a mixed heritage, and they also have a mixed name, and their first name is Chaim. Now, I have a really strong attraction to the Hand of Fatima. I have several of them in my house, and a lot of jewelry that's shaped it like it. And I picked this one up when I was in Jerusalem after finishing a workshop with Musawa. I took a 3-day visit to Jerusalem, where I had not been for 30 years, particularly because when I went there the first time, I was still a little bit in my Salafi days, and I only wanted to see Masjid al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock. Although I ended up staying in a dorm that was across the street from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and I actually had an interesting religious experience regarding a young woman coming out of the church. But when I went this time, it was about a year and a half, 2 years back, I decided that I needed to pick up the pace, and I made my intentions and was able to fulfill those intentions to make the same prayer in the sacred spaces considered to be important to the three Abrahamic traditions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So I started at Masjid al-Aqsa, and actually the women prayed in the Dome of the Rock Masjid, and then I went to Masjid al-Aqsa to fulfill this with 2 rak'ats. And that was a prayer to say that in 50 years from now, may my children, who belong to many religions and many ethnicities, may my children's children, that is my grandchildren, may they return to this place in a time of peace, so that they too may make worship in all three places. That was my prayer, and I did it in all three places to commemorate that now they are Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and no religion. The particulars of this one that caught my eye is that the word Chaim, which means life, is written therein in Hebrew, and my grandson's name is Chaim, as I said, which means life. Remember what I said about the stones? I sometimes collect stones because I have had a wonderful experience. This one was from a river that we visited, and this one was from a cave that we visited, and this one, of course, is one of those nice shining ones that you collect or you purchase. I also, don't tell anybody, but when I was doing my Hajj, I did take a stone from Arafah, from the Mount of Arafah, about the same size. It's in my U.S. storage because I didn't bring all my altar stuff. Most of this is new stuff that I've started putting on an altar. So that's what I do with the stones. I use them as a physical connection to a sacred experience or a place in which there was a sacred experience. And of course I have shells and a bit of coral, dried coral. All of these I collected myself on different beaches, on different shores, from just the major waters. Whenever I get there and I have some time to spend and I find beautiful shells and things, I will pick them up. And actually this one is almost shaped like a ring, which I thought was quite interesting. So that is a reflection of the water. And lastly, I occasionally burn incense, and this particular incense holder, which I got in South Africa, is in the shape of my spirit animal, the elephant. The cloth that they are sitting on was a gift from a Muslim woman who helped organize the first ever Muslim women's khutbah writing workshop when I was in South Africa in August. And again, the cloth I change every 2 weeks. Well, I live in a place that's very dusty, so it kind of needs to be changed. But also because when people gift me with cloths, I try to put them on the altar, because the altar is a place for the emphasis on sacred positive energy, and a reminder that that energy permeates the entire creation, and we are part of that creation. We are composites of those energies, and we in our bodies are made from teen, from earth. Our bodies are 90+% water. We also have fire, and we have air, obviously, in order to breathe. So these elements are a part of the fabric of life, and in my altar I make a point of emphasizing them and also their masculine and feminine reference. So that's the altar. Thank you very much. Salam.